Hey everybody, welcome to this episode of the podcast. Today we're going to be talking about the transition from static-based plans into something that's a little bit more dynamic. And we have Hemant here with us today to discuss this topic. Maybe you can give us a little bit of an introduction into yourself and your background.
Thanks. Hey everybody. I come from 22 years of global experience, primarily driving digital transformation, product or platform innovation across telecom, media, and technology. I've worked across the industry. I've worked with the premier telco service providers, engaged with OEMs in the space, as well as pure play consulting providers and system integrators as well. I look for I have more expertise and specialization around AI powered platforms, considering that's what the industry is looking forward to, and looking forward to enhance the overall digital customer experience, streamlining operations, and looking forward to accelerate product adoption and innovation.
Awesome. So we're seeing some really interesting things in market, right? And this kind of shift of this, this product to platform, and there's traditional industries like telecom and SaaS really kind of relied on fixed types of things. Telecom had the triple play, that was out there. SaaS's tiered plans. And we're starting to see some changes in the market around that, around a push of both of those industries away from kind of static bundles towards something that's a little bit more flexible and dynamic. And I'm just curious on what you're seeing out there that's driving this sort of change.
That's exactly the right place to start, I would say, because it's something that everyone in the industry feels, I would say, intuitively, and I would say have not fully articulated. So think from a perspective of typical static bundling error. Earlier it used to be where we had predictable cycles, fixed plans, and again now industry is looking forward to more of an AI orchestrated era where we have things more real time, conceptual, and adaptive. That's how I perceive it. But the simple truth when we look into is that static bundled worked because people's life were more static. You had a fixed home, fixed TV, fixed broadband connections. You watched a scheduled television at a predictable times. In a world when I say triple play bundles made perfect sense. A similar example would be like a SaaS space, bronze, silver, gold tiers that made sense. Where adoption was, I would say, slow, and most of the teams used same limited features across. What has changed is the pace and fluidity of people's life, work, and how they consumed data. I think from this perspective is a modern customer might binge watch a streaming service for 2 weeks, or pivot to a competitive gaming, spend a month traveling internationally, and then probably come back and set up a home office all under the same contract, but yet with a different or I would say completely different bandwidth or latency requirement, security requirements, content needs at each step. That's how I perceive it. Now, in a static bundle, if we cannot stretch it across any radically different models, it's built around, I would say, an average customer that has no actual resemblance as of now in today's era, the way I look towards. And again, I would say when you go in industry and read about it, what research or analysts typically talk about is, I would say, a tectonic shift in terms of people's attention patterns. People now bounce between like broadcast streaming videos or short form of videos. You go on like Instagram, then we have social feeds out there, podcast, gaming, events. Again, metaverse you would have seen coming up big time. And sometimes all of those is happening in parallel, like you're streaming something on television and at the same time you are looking at reels on your phone. So the net thing is the consumption pattern has fragmented so much that designing a product for one pattern inherently fails the other, I would say. And a relative example from an industry will be like, think from software as a service models. Major productivity collaborating platforms have moved away from rigid, I would say, tier to more of, I would say, modular environments where uh, they are allowing people to use AI co-pilots or workflow automation packages, and then that's how the industry is growing. One moot point out there is the architecture of the offer has changed because the architecture of work itself is changing. It's becoming, as I mentioned, dynamic, fluid, and context dependent. Uh, I would say, lastly, what pushed this into the boardroom now, and again, technology is another lever that you need to think is that dynamic bundling has is kind of matured over the years. Like I would say 5 years ago, AI couldn't process a real-time behavioral or contextual signals at state. Today it can, which means that we have platforms that can dynamically assemble the right bundle at the moment based upon what that particular user's behavioral and consumption pattern is, based on what the user is doing, what they are, what devices they are using, what events are occurring in the arena. So let's say one side of the World Cup is happening, the other side of the world there could be uh, a, a different sporting event happening. So once the capability exists, the I would say the strategic question shifts from should we do it, how fast we do it, can we do it, or someone else should be doing it for us. uh, and and again, yeah, and that's what I would say is that. um, and again, one more important thing will be something, is the pricing is the last year. It is like it's the business models are changing, and as business models are changing, it's reshaping in terms of how services are built, delivered, I will say monetize and evolve. Um, net, we are entering a world where the bundles aren't static. I would say products or they're more adaptive to basically users' day-to-day lifestyle, or I would say AI curated experiences, which consistently resembles around consumers or guests' lifestyles in a real time. So does that
Yeah.
provide a
Yeah, I think so. And I think, one of the challenges that we see out there for any kind of service provider, whether telecom, SaaS, these things, like their fear is being commoditized, right? I remember the saying back in the day was, we don't want to be a dumb pipe,
yep,
right? And so there's this desire to differentiate and kind of package and bundle some different things from eco-services and different systems together. And I'm just, what are you seeing around that kind of trend about people that are really trying to diversify what they bundle together around what might be a core service, whether that's an AI LLM, whether that be a telecom pipe, and how do you see them starting to kind of shift in around different industries and stuff like that to try to bundle some things that have got more value together?
interesting. So the way I would package it is the most important strategic realities. Like typically when I engage with clients, is very simple. Connectivity and basic software features are now, I would say, commodities. The real differentiation comes in is where value is actually getting created, and that lives in our ecosystem and surrounding those services. Let's say telcos. Now, telcos, as you mentioned, compete on typical raw bandwidth, and those are locked in margin. And again, those margins are kind of destroying race to the bottom line. Uh, but, but meanwhile, operators are gaining shares, I would say, through one constructive, coherent lifestyle ecosystem, that is entertainment bundles. Um, uh, I won't take my client names, but think from bundles of Netflix or Disney, or gaming passes like Xbox Game Pass, or a cloud storage, family suits, or device protection programs. In fact, out there, I've heard about fintech wallets or even IoT add-ons out here. And in today's world, these aren't, I would say, nice to have extras. These are the differentiation strategies that the telcos are looking how they would want to differentiate themselves. Uh, and again, if you took take another example, which I was referring to, is software as a service industry is the same shift out there. I would say the durable moats are no longer like CRM or the core e-commerce engines. The moat is basically the partner ecosystem. So, like I would say, Shopify Market Space or Microsoft Copilot integrated ecosystem. And again, my intent will be like always lead with this pivot when you meet any senior leaders out there in terms of uh, I would say line like the intention is like raw connectivity is a commodity, but again your differentiation depends upon how would your network speed or basic software features are already kind of are basically competing in a game with no margins left, as I mentioned earlier, out there. So where is the real differentiation? It's not in the pipe, as you also mentioned somewhere. And not also in the just the features. It's in the ecosystem surrounding both. In telco, the operators are gaining basically more, I would say, traction around building around those layers, like bundles, something which we were just talking about, that are integrated with content, gaming, low latency, cloud safety. These are the I would say the differentiators out there, and it has become kind of invincible infrastructure, simply kind of enabling those services around there. Um, and here it's, I would say, where it's structurally interesting. I would say the most ambitious players are no longer bundling within the industry; they are bundling across them. So think about telcos bundling with fintech, telcos are bundling smart homes, telco bundling products with healthcare, e-commerce giants, or gaming and social coming in together, content and commerce coming in together. Uh, uh, I would say that's how across industry bundles are kind of building up, and I would say especially I see Asia being very innovative, and parts of Latin America where operators have kind of pushed it further in terms of those innovations.
Yeah. And so I think, like it's really interesting, right? Like you mentioned kind of in industry bundling, is not as strategically important as partnerships across ecosystems to create valuable packages together. And I'm curious, right? So when you think about, okay, well, I'm bundling within my own industry and within my own bounds, then my dynamic nature of being able to pull bundles together is in my control, right? And
Yep.
so I'm curious of what you're seeing, right? Because we're seeing, AI play out in some real-time bundling, and I'm curious what that dynamic adds into the fact that I'm trying to do partnership bundling and pulling these things together and creating dynamics around this stuff and using AI to help me to form that. And I'm curious on how that plays out when I'm, like you said, I'm doing cross industry and cross ecosystem versus just thinking with inside my world.
Sure. And again, it's a very intersection between two different areas when you talk about bundling and then bringing in AI. Here I was put it out like we are not just moving from typical industry bundles, as I was mentioning, to basically I would say a lifestyle or a workflow bundles. We are moving in towards more of like seamless cross industry ecosystem. And again, this is not, I would say, a theoretical anymore. It's really happening. The consolidations across industries. You would have seen some happening earlier this year, also happening, especially like streaming giants merging their studios or I would say the control content or distribution end to end, or broadband operators combining at scale to basically broaden their bundling reach. Gaming companies, I would say, being taken private at a valuation that reflects what their IP is and not their software footprint, by the way. Live sports is another thing, that live sports coverage into streaming platforms and collapsing into like into a separate value chain that's where that metaverse as a platform comes very important out here. Like, hey, there is an opportunity with cut the cord happening, and operators bringing in innovative services like, hey, let's bring a metaverse as a service platform. Let's monetize it, see how we can build up a marketplace, bring others into it, make it plug and play. I would say as industry bundle in telecom service streaming, it's more of like a lifestyle bundles in platform, weaving in together connectivity, content, financial services, healthcare all together. Something I just shared about. And other example, I would say that uh, this is more of a strategic significance out here. Like, once you cross the industry line, the customer relationship becomes exceptionally sticky. And the switching cost isn't losing one service, it's kind of unwinding an entire integrated experience that kind of spans across multiple dimensions in a daily life. I would say that think from a lead question perspective, that who ultimately owns the customer in a multi-industry ecosystem. Is it a network operator? Is it a content platform or person, or is it the e-commerce late? And that's where your the other part comes in, is that does AI and orchestrator stitches everything together? And this is a concept that I find most interesting in this area. And I will say a lot of people kind of misunderstood it. Like, in-time bundling is not like just a future state. I would say it's already emerging in terms of programs we deliver, leading operators. I would say there are digital native enterprises which have already started looking into it. The way I look towards this from a core idea perspective is that AI is using real-time signals to kind of assemble most relevant bundles at the moment that's it needed. Again, and at that particular time, I'm talking about a future state. And again, with no human intervention out there, no waiting for like, hey, let's come next quarter, what revisions I need to make. Think from an AI orchestrated engine from an architecture perspective, where let's say I'm looking into a location signal where there is an airport. I'm roaming, and and again I'm basically latching onto a launch Wi-Fi. Okay, that's a real time signal processing I'm getting. Okay, how can I personalize this offer? What I can build up a bundle for this customer. Let's say there is a gaming launch. Okay, can I provide this user of mine loves gaming, can I provide a low latency mode for him? There is a family streaming peak, like there is a new web series coming in, can I provide a bandwidth boost for that? Another example would be like from an like, hey, this customer is moving home, do I have a smart home bundle for this customer? These are different, I would say, behaviors that we need to, or levers that an AI orchestration engine for even like one customer can look into to build things up. But here I want to be really clear about something, is that because I'm thinking of framing of like growing this discussion, actually the undersell here is that in-time bundling, when I talk about AI orchestrated bundling, it's not a vision, it's not a pilot, it's basically it's happening at a scale right now, and the results I would will be like significantly enough. I was reading, or I was a couple of leading newspapers and articles have looking into, is that what would be a potential commercial impact when organizations starts using these AI orchestrated engines, especially like in markets where generative AI is being used to drive hyper personalization for even upselling. And I would say even if you get like a 5 to 15% increase in ARPU, depending upon customer segment, that's great. I was reading certain Latin American operators deploy enabled personalized messaging services across emails or SMS or even WhatsApp. And again, they were looking at the recorded click rates, like increased from the traffic when it goes from sales on web to basically going into in-store purchase. Uh, but the question still remains that how realistic it is, and again, but at the same time, the most, I would say, the interesting question also comes is that what signals AI is actually using for us. And that's where again there are different areas you can look into. Is the first criteria being like network experience signals. Second, as I mentioned, is behavioral signals. Contextual signals are there, and fourth one I would put it up as uh, the commerce signal, because content and shopping are converging. You would have seen many advertisements coming in that, hey, should do you want this content to be sent to your phone? So shoppable content formats, retail media partnerships, the emergence of platforms where kind of, I would say, where you watch something and buy something as a gesture. That's important. And AI can detect where customers is in a commercial mindset versus, I would say, a pure entertainment mindset, and tailoring the offers and segmentation accordingly. And the way I would like summarize this part is the shift. The shift is important. AI driven bundling will, I would say, will transform services from, I will say, tractionable products to more of context aware digital experiences. And again,
Yeah.
that's where the real price is.
Yeah, well, and I think one of the challenges, right, and as this evolves, is going to be the operational aspect of stuff behind these dynamic bundles, from the billing, the invoicing, like you said. Well, who owns the customer and who's responsible for delivering, the charge for the stuff? How am I, going to be, I'm in a traditional business where I've planned out my pricing. I know these things. These are the way that it's running through my revenue schedules, my reporting. But as it's dynamically creating these different things, I'm just curious what you're seeing, maybe some of the early adopters of this, of what kind of operational challenges that they're facing in the background to make it actually happening from the finance side of things.
Sure. Again, and I would not say just a technology story. When we talk about it, it requires over an organizational change. Think about new operating models, new collaboration rhythms between product, data science teams, commercial teams, and again, where the willingness to basically let machine make own decisions. How much data democratization I would need to do? How would I perceive from a security perspective? Those are important questions that we need to be think about. We need to think. I would say something which I was mentioning earlier. Also, it's critical and it's important to understand uh, the how fast an organization understands and what's the speed of learning. And again, that will be the primary competitive advantage in this space, not the product. And I will say not even the price point, the velocity at which you can figure out what is working, how you can scale. That's what important. Let me give you a sense of what it looks like to be basically like in practice. Like the old model used to be like was quarterly or annual. Like when we talk about uh, earlier bundles, okay, you used to design something, launch, you used to basically get data, you analyzed it, your decisions, and then you used to implement the changes that how you want to look into. The new models based upon AI will run into, I would say, more of micro test in parallel. Like AI identifies how your top performing variants, not after, I would say, weeks of analysis, but within hours of analysis. It automatically kind of promotes winners, retires underperformers, and again, that's where the human role is shifting from making decisions to setting those parameters within which the machine decides. My data integrated campaign enablement framework, which is based upon how to integrate AI and build up those agents, which removes the human role out there and let AI drives in terms of how it can help you optimize cost. There are several campaign building dollars those are spent. Can we save those dollars using AI? And that's where the shift is happening. Like AI is driving that personalization of product, building campaigns and showing potential revenue uplift. I would say, again, I can quote the numbers, but definitely that uplift is happening. Customer care is another example where there is a significant involvement of AI interactions, and where it can be automated, where clear productivity gains can be coming in. If you talk about from a media and entertainment, the story or the results will be very similar. Like companies that integrate AI into their content, advertising, monetization operations are being valued, and again at multiples of, I would say, 2 to 3 uh, times higher than what their peers are. And again, market is already pricing in this learning velocity, I would say, from an AI perspective. And what I've mentioned earlier in the conversation as well is, um, it's basically realism out there. Like now, right now, despite all the investments the organizations are making, its ambition, uh, AI is like driving less than 2% of the total revenue, based upon different numbers, give and take. And But the gap between this ambition and current delivery is significant, and more, I would say, the more telcos start using AI and adopting it into across different operations, we will see this biggest obstacle of velocity of change, closing that gap. I would say technology is ready. The organizational readiness in most of the cases is not yet there, and that's the real work.
Yeah. And I guess, with such a focus on like the personalization aspect, and you said like doing these like micro experiments, right? And seeing what works. And I'm curious on how that personalization versus kind of like fairness competition comes up. Because if I'm offering different people different sorts of things at different price plans, and then, my neighbor and I are purchasing the same thing, and we compare bills, and one's being charged way less than the other. Like, I'm curious on what some of like the non-operational or soft skills sort of scenarios that are being dealt with around managing that customer profile and ensuring fairness across the base.
Uh, I would tell you that this is a tension I've come back in a lot of my conversation with different peers whom when I talk about in the industry, and and I would say this is kind of not fully worked though. The primary reason is the commercial logic when I talk about from a personalization and fairness perspective. So think about the commercial logic of AI driving personalization is incredibly compelling out there. If you know one of the segments, I would say, to a gaming led bundle, to another family safety bundle, of course you will give them different things. But if you understand, I would say, loyalty, usage pattern, service preferences, value based pricing, then it will make a lot of sense out there, I would say. Algorithm making decisions, no one can explain, I would say, where a customer call will be happening. uh, that's how I perceive it. And this isn't personalization, I would say. This is kind of exploitarization. And regulators are in multiple markets are already signaling that they will intervene if companies like cross that line in terms of, uh, I would say, personalization and exploitation. And the way to look at it is that there is an important trend that's emerging in consumer data trust, is confidence in institution, by extension brands people rely on daily, is I believe it's historically low in many developed markets. Like younger audiences particularly, are deeply spectacle as AI generated content and AI generated offers become more common. authenticity, transparency are becoming the key premier differentiators and not an optional extras. So the bottom line is that what does, or I would say, getting this right actually looks like. And again, across the organizations that I have seen or even worked with, the leaders are delivering more responsible personalization share. I would say they are building up those consistent practices out there. So think about first as an from a just as a pricing logic. Customers, I would say the ways that customers do not understand the algorithm out there that you are building up to build up that price. They need to understand the real reason behind that pricing. Again, you have been with us for 8 years. You stream heavily. Here is an offer built around you. That transparency doesn't mean revealing trade secret. It means basically having a clear human logic out there. Uh, and the second one, which is another differentiator, is the real customer choice. Uh, a personalized offer must feel like a benefit and should not be like a, hey, I'm getting into a trap. Customers should always have an option to choose the standard, hey, or an unpersonalized plan. Choice is what keeps personalization from, I would say, uh, basically being the differentiator out there. So you need to think about those.
Yeah. So maybe you can leave us with some final thoughts and fast forward, 5, 10 years in the future, which is a crazy amount of time. We're talking about the evolution from an AI perspective, but give us a view, like your thoughts of where you see things heading in that kind of time span.
Uh, if I have a view into the future, the way I look into is the models. The future will become a little more fluid. They will be more contextual. They will be having uh, each user's data in real time. That's the first thing. And but before I go there, I just want to like let you know that the fixed products, that they aren't going away anywhere. Like it's important to say and be clear that because of uh, more uh, I would say, how should I put it? So it's important to say that because of more breathless commentary around AI driven bundling, implying that world everywhere, that everything is becoming dynamic, nothing is predictable. That's not how markets behave. There will always be customers who want simplicity, a basic, straightforward plan, stable price, no surprises. Uh, there will be always a segment of customers who are legitimate users of that service. But fixed products, as I mentioned, fast forward will become increasingly like something I was reading was the floor and not the revenue engines. They will be basically a baseline entry or a minimal viable relationship, and that's where the dynamic AI orchestrated experience layers will be built upon on that top on that foundation. uh, if I talk about telco, which is the industry which I have my expertise in, is the operators with rising ARPU won't be selling like just a single 100 Mbps broadband plans. They will be selling, I would say, use case expectations or experiences. Think from it that when pandemic came in, suddenly the industry had a digital shift. So what's that experience that we are looking forward to in this particular market? So think from one, work from home experience. It's a priority. Okay. Can I provide priority routing, VPN, collaborative tools? Can I provide more cloud storage? Gaming experiences, low latency, cloud passes, data boost plans can I provide? Family safety experiences are important. Okay, uh, can I provide any device protection plans, parental controls, identity monitoring? That's another thing that will be coming in. And the way I look towards is that as increasingly the AI capabilities directly are built into the plans, something which you were mentioning earlier, like LLM credits, assistant access, premium integrations, those will be the new connectivity tiers forming in and around AI in future. Uh, Again, even when you talk about this talk about basic telco, when we talk about uh, the telcos moving into the low Earth orbit satellite connectivity, that kind of barely existed as a mass market category about a year ago, and it's expected to be close to about $50 billion in revenue, uh, and I expected to be reaching about 15 million subscribers in a couple of years. That's a completely new segment where new connectivity tiers can emerge. Uh, that can scale overnight, and that kind of will change the pace how the industry, I would say, is moving. uh, when you talk about media and especially entertainment industry, the monetization shift is even more dramatic, or I would say will be out there. Ad supported streaming, fast channels, retail media are converging contents, commerce and advertising into a unified experience. This is what would be coming, and I would say with a shoppable format, and a retail partnerships become a standard, something which I was mentioning through the metaverse marketplace out there. And I think from that, even from a micro drama or a short form video segment, it's expected to be maybe an $8 billion industry in near future, and especially live when we talk about live sports rights still remain, I would say, the single most powerful anchor for bundled retention in the market. And again, whoever controls live sports controls those bundled conversations, and those dynamics won't change. And again, I would say, taking all those shifts that we have been discussing, some three areas I would say will lean on to is one is the data architecture that will be kind of capable of powering real time intelligence. Next is system modernization, especially around billing, catalog, which is capable of executing those dynamic offerings at scale. Third, which we touched earlier, is basically how organizations transform to operate AI at a speed and not at a quarterly cycle speed. Uh, I would say my final thoughts around it will be like, stop asking what to put in my bundle. I would say it will be like start bundling the intelligence and let the bundle assemble themselves at the right moment for the right customer with the right offer. And that's the shift I would say is from packaging to orchestration, static to intelligent, and lastly like product to platform. And that's where industry is going.
Yeah. Well, it definitely sounds like it's going to be a very interesting roller coaster ride over the next little while on that stuff, and a ton of business opportunity out there as well. So I think we'll stop the conversation there. And I just wanted to thank you again for coming on the podcast and sharing your experience and knowledge around these topics.